In fairness,
Between the two of us, it's pretty impressive, all right? Yeah.
fuck hell, man, that took us. We've been half an hour trying to make this go live. That is,
Yeah.
it's bleak at
And
its best.
6-year-olds can do it. 6-year-olds can do it.
Yeah. Come here. So, what I wanted to talk to you about today, anyway. So, for
Yeah.
this, I'm going to be surprised if anybody joins us on YouTube Live. So, we're going for the first time ever onto YouTube Live, which is great. But we're talking about fresh starts today. And just kind of starting anything new, whether that be moving country, whether that be starting a new job, whether it's, joining a new gym, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it always brings up different kind of mixed feelings and mixed emotions, and there's different ways to go through it. And I actually started thinking, when I was thinking of this topic, I started thinking of you,
Oh.
because when we started college, before I even met you, I remember I was sitting in this very, very big
Uh-huh.
with at least 200 or 300 people, and you sat down beside me, and you were like, "Oh, what are you studying?" I was like, "I'm studying international relations." You're like, "Oh, listen, I'm studying that too." It's like, "Cool, that's really cool." And then you were like, "Oh yeah, just hold on a second," and you went up to the front of the lecture hall before the lecturer got there, and you were
Uh-huh.
just like in front of 200 or 300 people. You were like, "My name's Owen, and I'm from Cork, and I want to be the class rep. So if you could all vote for me, that would be great."
Yeah, yeah. God, I remember that. Uh, I remember wearing a ridiculously tight t-shirt. like I remember thinking I remember being like I should have tried to wear nice clothes or something because it was a very, yeah. In hindsight, it was a weird thing to do. It was I didn't think about it like I it wasn't like a good like campaign to start off like that. But I suppose there was no such thing as a campaign back then. Why did it make it? Why did you think? Not back then, but is it like for fucking student university stuff? Although it gets here. All right, you've completely flummoxed me by bringing that up. I wasn't expecting to talk about that.
No, but here's
Why did you think about it?
because I was impressed.
Oh,
I was Here's a
with my
guy who
tight t-shirt.
with your tie. Here's a guy come in rocking a tie. Um, Not only that, but he's got up in front of 200 or 300 people, which I would be very intimidated to do.
Mhm.
Very confidently kind of announced himself on the scene. Like, this is like day one, pretty much, of
Yeah.
college. So
Mm.
I'm thinking of you making a fresh start. You've moved from Cork to Dublin, came in, and you were like,
Okay.
I'm going to make the most of. I think your mentality must have been, I'm going to make the absolute most of this opportunity.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 It was like it's like it. It was new experiences. That was it. It was like I'd never had I think I'd heard about the DCU president and like the fact that like the student union and stuff. I think I'd heard about a bit about it like in the days up to that, and it was like, oh, this is kind of interesting, and like it sounds like you actually kind of do something instead of just like, it's not just a title. You get to organize stuff and talk to people and stuff. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's try that because I'd never heard of it before. Um, but yeah, 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 yeah. I suppose it was something along those lines of like new experiences, new place.
Mm. Like, were you coming into it with the mentality though of like what you were nervous, and just this was the way that you felt like it was best to like introduce yourself on the scene, or were like
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because introduce myself, all the cool kids go for class rep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The ladies love
the ladies love the tight t-shirt anyway. I don't know about the going for class
it.
rep thing.
Um, no, I think it was be busy was my mentality because I was living up in Dublin full time pretty much, and I knew that like if I'm going to be up here, I was one of the few people who didn't go home on weekends and stuff like that. So it was like it sounded like an interesting thing to try out, but also it was like, all right, I need if I'm going to live up here for 3 years and not really have a full time job or anything, I need to keep myself interested in shit. So yeah, I think that was it. It wasn't. Yeah, I think that was it. I think it was just kind of, oh, okay, that's kind of a hobby or something, I suppose. And it's a way to meet people as well. It was a way to, like, talk to people without having, like,
Yeah.
it was a good excuse to
I
actually meet people, you know.
I even found from talking. I did a podcast yesterday with
Mm.
a girl who moved from Mayo to Dublin, and her kind of thing of her way to meet new people. She said, like, hands down, was the best thing I ever did. Being proactive, I joined tag rugby. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but like it's that's a common theme that's run across the podcast in general. Like whenever you're moving to a new place, you have to like make the effort
Yeah,
to join something or to do something. For you, it was try to join the student union in college.
yeah,
I struggled with that because when I moved abroad, I I'm not the type of person who's like finds it really easy to go and join some random new club.
yeah.
Like I don't have that many hobbies.
Hmm.
I always struggle with that question.
But you're active. You cycle a lot. You like to do fitness and stuff like that. But I suppose they're kind of solo hobbies. You have interests, but they're kind of solo expeditions. You know,
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't
expeditions.
like. You can't really say like drinking as a hobby.
I
Uh,
remember, I remember back, like, way back when I was in college, like secondary school, and like we were. I remember a good friend of mine called Pa, who we used to go out a lot, and he was applying for a job or like some course or something, and one of the questions was like, "What are your hobbies?" And like he was just like, I just go drinking. When I say socializing,
yeah, yeah.
is a hobby.
Mixing with friends.
Yeah, I remember, like, I'd say socializing is a hobby.
Yeah.
It was literally just going out on the weekends. That was the only thing you could think of.
Do you remember when like you're making your CV for jobs back in the day, particularly like your part-time jobs during college or whatever, and
Mm,
you always had that sections of like extracurricular activities and
yeah,
interest.
yeah,
Uh, I like that was everybody put drinking without drinking.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
for me, cinema was drinking.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah. Going to the
Uh,
movies to have cans. That was
yeah,
dot dot
and
dot.
yeah, like listen, I don't know. It's a good way though to get integrated into a new place. For you, it was a
Mhm.
student union. What was like some of your? Did you get much value out of that experience in general?
The student union thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It was really. I spoke to, God, what was his Niall. Niall, what was his name? I can't remember his name now, but I was good friends with the president at the time, DCU president. That's where you and I went, and
really.
huh?
You were good friends with the DCU president.
Well, like, I wasn't like best buddies, but like I spoke to him a fair bit. Like I would have worked with him on a couple of things, and he was good to like hang out till quite late after, with parties and stuff, and I'd be doing the same. So we'd end up just chatting to each other, and uh, I remember talking to him in the first year or something like this, because I was involved for a couple of years, but he let me in on a little secret that he'd figured out. It was like student university, like, unions are just trial mock runs at having real jobs. It's like pretend responsibility, pretend diplomacy, pretend serious meetings. Like, they're like, none of this really matters. Like, the university can pull any of it at any time, but
Yeah,
it gives you the idea that you have real responsibilities. You know what I mean? And there are paid jobs. There's paid jobs in a lot, like presidents of universities. I'm sure listeners know this now because a lot of people have gone through it or know people who've gone to university, but they're paid positions at most universities, like the president, vice president, stuff like that. So it's no messing for a lot of it. But yeah, he was like, this is just a way of us experiencing real jobs. That's the only thing they're trying to do here. I was like, oh, okay. Of course, I know that, like, Student Union Ireland and is it SU Ireland or whatever it's called. Like, I know they're actually, like, kind of like like a union, like union nowadays. Like, they can actually, like,
Really?
have walkout. Yeah, they have like walkouts and stuff like that. It's been a long time since I've been involved in that kind of stuff, but yeah, like they
Anything important?
but but yeah, it was good. It was cool. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, but from having that experience, the kind of when you came to university, grabbing it with both hands and just kind of going for it.
Mm.
Then you moved away. You moved obviously to Australia. As we said before in the podcast, that was different because you knew people going there.
Yeah.
But you moved to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Um, did you go about it with the same attitude of like, you
I
hear the
I
background?
what? Say
Can
again?
you hear the rain? Can you hear the rain here?
I can. Yeah. It's a lashing.
It's absolutely lashing.
It's
So
there's a storm here as well, but it's kind of died down for a second. But the yeah, no, look, here. We've talked about it a few times, but we know the knack. If you know the trick, you know the trick. You got to just get out and talk to people, go out, either go to a bar and meet people, or the big one is like hobbies. Go do sports or go do fucking chess or whatever it is. And yeah. I like it. The truth of the matter is, and the part of it that you don't want to admit to yourself is, whenever you move somewhere new or try something new, the first few people you get close to are probably not going to be your longtime friends. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's we don't like to admit it, but like when you first move to a place and you get buddies, there's a good chance you're not going to be like super good friends with them in years to come.
yeah,
But that's okay, because you need stepping stones. You need just to break the ice and get to know someone and hear about another place, and oh, okay, then you meet someone who's like got much more like closer interests and stuff like that to you. But yeah, like once you've cracked it, you've cracked it. Once you've lived abroad, there's only one way of doing this stuff. It's like you got to get a network. You got to find a network in any way you can.
Mm. Do you remember, like, just speaking of people that you end up making friends with that are not going to be your friends when you just start off in a new job or in a new place or whatever? Do you remember when I moved to Australia for like 6 months? I was like best mates with this guy from Scotland called
Yeah,
Kev.
yeah,
Uh, lovely fella.
yeah.
Uh, massive, massive believer in ghosts. Like,
Really?
yeah, like would would frequently tell stories like about auras, and anyway, we were like inseparable for
Yeah,
whatever reason.
you
Like
were very, very close. Yeah,
very,
yeah, I
very.
remember that.
Then all of a sudden, it just fizzled out. Like, because I lived in a hostel and we lived in the same hostel, and then
Mm.
I moved out. That was it. It
That was
was
it.
like,
Never spoke
but I
again.
moved out. Say I moved out like 15 minutes away.
But you have no connection anymore. There's no reason for you to be friends anymore. I mean, it's like. Uh,
Yeah.
but what got you thinking about fresh starts anyway? What was it? Like, explain what you mean when you say fresh start. Fresh start. Like, because there's simply like there's like dramatic fresh starts. There's like new job fresh starts. What were you thinking when you were saying this?
Um. So a fresh start for me is I don't know, because you go through a lot of those kind of emotions when you're starting something new. Like
Yeah.
it's having to meet new people,
Hmm.
having to get used to something new. It's quite like intimidating at times to start anything new.
Hmm.
Um, and oh look, we got a comment. Wow, that's amazing. Woo! Thanks, Jose Fernando. Ask Fernando. I think I know Fernando comes to our live shows. I think I didn't see the picture very well, but if you're there, Fernando, good to see you, and hopefully see you on Monday. Um, that will be the weird thing about doing these on YouTube Live. So for people listening to this later on the podcast, there will be the odd time where we randomly shout things like that.
Wait,
Um,
someone like something. Yeah.
and we didn't make much of an announcement about doing this, and it's kind of
We
a
made no announcement about doing this. We barely knew ourselves, Mark.
yeah, it's true. So it's a bit of a trial run, but we want to try and do it. If we can, we might try and do it at the same time every week. Let's see
Hmm.
what happens with our various jobs and all the rest of it. But
Yeah.
um, anyway, my point being is that yeah, starting something new, it's
Hmm.
difficult, and you go through a lot of those emotions. To be perfectly honest, even so, I started a new. I didn't start really a new job, but let's say I started a new position recently,
Hmm.
and even getting to meet new people in an office and getting to know how things are done, it's quite difficult. Yeah, it's quite like it's a bit of a pain in the ass, and you have to like you've got you're trying to like you said, because you're trying to figure out who's actually going to be your friend here, or of all of these colleagues,
Yeah,
are we actually getting along? Because at the beginning everybody's nice and everybody gets along with everyone.
yeah.
um but after like a few weeks you start to realize, oh, that guy just did something real weird, or you
That's what they say about you, Mark.
know.
Well, here's a question. With so you've had experience with your own company, working for other companies, working with like different industries. Like with this new, you've just stepped into a new project. You got a new position. Uh, have you are you coming at it with like fresh like ideas of, or not fresh, but like are you coming on it with a wise head on your shoulders? Are you like, all right, I know like there's going to be this period where it's been like this, but I'm going to be fine, or I'll talk to this person? Or is it the same as if you've been doing it? Is this the same as if you'd got a new job at 22?
um to a certain extent, yeah.
Yeah.
The same as when I was getting a new job when I'm 22. Like,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, that whole like getting older and white to it. I do care less about people liking me. That is,
Full stop.
but not like, obviously in general I care that people like me. It's it's human nature. But
Mm.
when I was 22 and you start a new job or you move country, you're trying to be friends with everybody.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm a little bit more conservative with my energy, and if I see that, you'd always be nice to someone and you'll always be like respectful. But if you see that you're not going to have like a long term relationship or whatever, um then I don't put as much effort in, to be perfectly honest,
Yeah,
which
and
is
you're
not.
not you're not afraid to not be friends with someone, you know? Like
Yeah,
I think when you get a bit older, you're like, if we're not going to be mates, well, that's okay. Like we can be civil and respectful to each other, but I might not be friends with that person, and that's not the end of the world.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be my experience of it anyway.
Mm.
But also I would say a job maybe when you're in your 30s tends to be a little bit more serious, or you at least take it a little bit more seriously than you did when you were 22. Like, I
Yeah,
often look back here, like, because I'm in the university working where we went to university, and it's just the change of mentality is incredible. you
yeah.
know yeah, I strolling into university or college with my hands in my pockets at 4:30 going for
Mm.
lunch. Whereas now you're like, you have to have the majority of your work done by time at
Yeah.
the end of the day. So yeah, it's a weird.
I had a conversation with a guy today, a friend. I had a coffee with a friend, and we were talking about it. And he was saying that like he wished that there was like a crash course or like half an hour a week given to like education, like young education, where you're like learning about relationships, about like how to work with friends, with colleagues, with partners, and stuff like that. He's just like, how do we just not bother trying to talk about this stuff and trying to help? Because like his idea is like, if we were able to understand relationships better earlier, we'd probably be able to call things better for ourselves in the long run. Like, am I in a bad relationship? Yes or no? What are the signs? Am I hanging around with people I shouldn't? Am I a bad influence on someone? These kind of like fucking life lessons that we all have to go through. Like he's like, it would be nice just to have some sort of like warning system for that as a younger person. But then we're talking about it being like, but then again, these are all life lessons that like, or part of the life experience that you can't really get rid of because his point was good. It was like when you're in a relationship and you go through something for the first time, or even the fourth time for some people, where you're like, oh, nobody has felt this except me. No one knows what this feels like except me in this situation. Like, even though every other person who's ever been in a relationship, bar the very few who have like not had problems, they've felt something like it. Like but you have this moment where, like, especially when you're younger, you're like, oh, this pain, this emotional pain is mine. Nobody knows what it could be like. You're like, but no, actually, fucking most of the population of the planet has felt that in the last 6 months. It's like, but we don't think about it that way.
Do you know what really helped me with that? Um, NSYNC.
Yeah, yeah. They really they they get you, do they?
uh, I, me, we just got each other. I could feel my pain. No, no, no. But you're 100% right. Do you know one of the best books that I have ever read? It's not very long. I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote it, but I will try and add a link to it. And it's a real. The title of the book is terrible, right? It's a really. It sounds like hippy
Big
dippy,
wobbly willy dicks.
but it's called Nonviolent Communication.
Oh.
Uh, and it basically is a book about how to communicate properly with other people and with yourself. So this
Mm.
guy, as far as I can remember, I read this book like good few years ago now. But the guy is a mediator, and he'd go into war torn places, or even where there's conflict in an office or something, and he'd act as a mediator to
Yeah.
try and make two sides understand each other. And apparently, according to him in his book, he had a very good success rate. And it's just about enabling people to have um, a sense of empathy with the other person. And often it's simply down to the language that you use. Like a very very simple example, like with work, we'll often say like, I have to do this, I need to do this, or whatever it might be. And he's like saying, okay, well, why do you have to? That's an obligation. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're
Mm-hmm.
feel obliged. It's almost like an external thing. Somebody's telling you, you feel like you have to. It's not your choice.
Mm-hmm.
But if like you break it down, well, actually, you know, it is my choice because I want this job, because I need this money, because I want to go on holiday,
Yeah.
buy a new
Yeah.
phone, or whatever it might be. So this is like obviously a very small example in a whole like massive scheme how to communicate with yourself and with other people. And speaking of relationships, I think that if you can communicate well, both with yourself and with other people, then for me, like that's what relationships are. It's communications. Can I understand? When someone's attacking, like with something, they might say like, "Ah, like you're fucking really slow at doing this job and work or whatever." Okay, that's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be something, but even just who are
Mm-hmm.
it's. But again, without sounding too hippy dippy, it's actually something like, I'm feeling stressed
Yeah.
because of the way you're working, or because of the way I perceive your way you're working. It's very
Mm-hmm.
complicated. It does sound very hippie, but
No, 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 no. You're. I think you're bang on. Recently, I found myself being sensitive towards certain words in texts, like the way a text will be phrased. I'll be like, "You're putting a lot of shit on me right now," and I like it'll be like you could read the same text and be like, "Oh, that makes sense," but I'll be like, there's a phrase there now that it feels like you're making it sound like I'm making it. It's just there's lots of word like single words in texts. I've recently enough have been like, oh, okay, I have an emotional reaction to that. And it's really interesting that like that could have been worded a completely different way, and I would have felt totally fine about it. Like and like I'm also aware of like when I'm texting group messages or whatever now, and like I'm asking direct questions to premise it with like um, hope everyone's well. Hey guys, like I hope everyone had a great weekend or whatever it was. That's in like you don't start off with the are we good for this date or is this happening? Be like, hey, hope you're all good. Friend, like don't I don't want to be like this is this and that is that. It's like let's show that just a basic question. It's not an order. It's not a demand. It's just a question.
yeah,
And
also
like
figure
go on.
that it's more important, like how you are as a person
Hmm.
versus what actually we need to do. Like, I think that's what happens in work is people, your self-worth becomes very attached to what you do as a person, and that
Mm.
becomes the most important thing in life. Whereas I think actually people who are quite successful, and you'll see people who have shitloads of things to do, and they're like they write very like meaningful, and they give time in their emails and all of that kind of stuff. Like that's pretty cool, like that
Hmm.
people do. They're like, as you say, they'll prioritize, like, first of all, how are you, what's going
Mm.
on, what's going on in your life. By the
Mm.
way, we do this, but hope you're well, and let's
Mm.
chat soon.
Mm.
um yeah, that's important.
Mm.
Come here. This was the first time we did this on YouTube
Uh-huh.
live. So for people who are going to listen to this on Spotify, I apologies if it sounds a bit broken or whatever, but we'll work on it bit by bit. For anybody who actually watched, thanks so much. I
Yeah,
can't
very
any
cool.
yeah, I can't, yeah. I was expecting the number to be 0. I think there's 2 people. Well, there you go.
Yeah,
But people came out, yeah, people came
yeah,
out of
yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I saw it going up and down. Yeah, yeah. Mostly down, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was good fun.
Mm.
We'll try and organize a time to do it again. And
Absolutely.
the idea is to do it on a Thursday evening around 5 or 6 o'clock. Every week. So this will come out on Spotify on Monday. And yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks on.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Well, I guess I'll finish it here. I don't know
I
how to do
suppose
that.
now it's just
Do I just walk away?
I'm just
I just
am I
like get.
still on?
uh,
I'm still waving?
don't know
Someone
how.
left.
Hey, X end stream. See you later.
Bye.